Infernum is an add-on to the Calamity Mod that completely reworks boss AI, and a lot of people consider it the peak of Terraria difficulty. And while most sane Terraria players would choose to play Infernum for the first time on normal, I decided to download the mod and play it for the first time on hardcore. I've definitely built myself a reputation as being a hardcore player in Terraria, so I took these skills in my 1500 hours in base Calamity and took on the challenge. And what a challenge it's been. I've spent over the last 2 months in countless attempts trying to beat this challenge. Could this be the run? Rules for the run. No major quality of life mods. Magic storage, recipe browser, and some simple automation is all I use. No save and exits to avoid death or deadly situations. And no major abuses or glitches. This would include using magic conch to warp away from a boss. There are some extra rules in place, but you'll find out about those later on in the video. So let's begin. At the time of this recording, this is attempt 62. I have yet to have a run make it past Devourer of Gods, and I have died in more ways than imaginable. So I chopped down some trees, explore a little bit, and build some wooden shacks from my NPCs, and we immediately go to the planetoid above spawn. The factories and chargers you find up there sell for good gold we need for dynamite for a elevator. We can also get potions and herb bags. Nice, we got grav pots. Hell yeah. Getting grav pots was huge so I can get to the Sky Islands early on. Also, we kill some harpies so that I can get feathers for double jumps as well as some featherfall potions. Having very good movement is key, and we're going to focus on that early on in the run. When we're done looting the planetoid, we go back to spawn to open up all the herb bags so we can make our first weapon and our first accessory of the run. So we got a jump and we got a summon. So the reason I bought my elevator almost immediately is to get to the cavern lair as fast as possible. I want to get rubies so that I can craft life crystals. In Calamity, you can craft life crystals with ruby, stone, and healing pots. So getting as many rubies as possible, as well as getting a diamond hook and all the components for magic storage are very important early on. And I also get lucky and find one of the key items for the run. How lucky is that, dude? Pylons, full HP, and the drill mount are some of the things that I like to get immediately. And we get lucky and we find the lab. The Onyx Excavator key is one of my favorite mounts in the game. You can find it at the Onyx lab, and it's a huge time save when you start to build arenas later on. I get some armor and accessories and go break a Crimson Heart to get the goblins to spawn. I also loot Skylands so I can get the Sky Mill and a shiny red balloon, as well as go to the desert to get a magic conch. And the next thing on the agenda is to go find Shimmer, but not before we almost immediately get a goblin army. Nice, we found it. Shimmer is honestly one of the best things ever added to the game. I mean, who doesn't love white, gooey liquids? Now with enough movement and defense, I decided to traverse the underworld and go get the Wayfinder. Not that I play base Cal anymore anyway, but this is why I love Infernum so much. Just for like the really cool quality of life items and accessories that they add to the game. After that, we go left to the Brimstone Crag so I can go get the Blade Crest. It's a pretty boring weapon if you want me to be honest, but it's so easy to get and we have to come here anyway that we end up getting it almost every run. And now we're ready for our first boss of the run, which is going to be an Undergeared Perforators. Honestly, for an Evil 2 boss, I find this boss to be pretty free. So why not just go ahead and knock it out now, just so that way I can get all the upgrades before I move forward. Well, we do this a lot during the run. The cool thing about in Calamity, it allows you to do a lot of progression skips. You can do Plantera before the mechs in hard mode. You can fight Poltergeist right after Moonlord. You can fight Ravager before Golem to get a Scoria pickaxe to mine up the arena. There's a lot of things that you could do. Some we do, some we don't. But I find it fun to fight some of these bosses under geared, and then we get a little bit over geared for some of the easier bosses. That way when we go back and loot up and get gear we need later on, it just makes it that much easier. I won't really spoil too much of what we do in the run, so I'll just leave it at that. I picked up a lot of my habits from just playing a lot of Calamity. I've played a lot of hardcore Master Death, and just a lot of Calamity in general, but just never played Infernum. And even now, this is attempt 62, so I'm a couple hundred hours in. And my dumbass didn't save all my death clips to make like a death compilation. But if you do want to see the deaths from all my previous runs, as well as the full footage for this run, they are all on my channel where all my VODs are uploaded. So anyway, back to the run. I forgot to mention that if you want to take out the worms pretty quick, spiky balls pretty much like annihilate the worms, so that way you can just use your sword and focus on Perforator. The spiky ball blade crest method has not failed me yet. With perforators down, we're pretty much going to be at the tier we want to be at for the rest of pre-hard mode, starting with making some aerospec armor and getting a new weapon. So fun fact, obviously beating perforators is the first boss, we don't have the pickaxe power needed to be able to mine up aerolite. So what we do is we bomb a little bit to get some ore, we place down a sky mill, a hellforge, and we make bars to where we can make the Skyfringe pickaxe. And then boom, we can mine aerolite now. You need enough for full armor, weapons, and some accessories. So coming to the Evil Island on the left side of the world pretty much gives you everything you need to be able to get this done. So after that, we come to an altar to make the bloodstained glove. The 8 armor pen you get per stealth strike synergizes very well with the rogue weapon we're choosing. So we're making a full set of aerospec and switching to rogue. The set bonus from aerospec armor is very good. The fast fall speed is like peak movement. We also make a set of skyline wings, as well as a rogue weapon called the Turbulence. I come down to the Sunken Sea to come get the schematic for the new weapon that we want, as well as get the chargers and factories to sell for money for reforging, because I pretty much want warding or lucky on all of my accessories. So the weapon we're making is called the Tracking Disc. It shoots out a barrage of lasers at your enemy that home in, and it's pretty much a boss killer. I reforged it to flawless, and with that, here's King Slime. When fought on tier, I actually enjoy the King Slime fight a lot. It's a pretty cool fight, but we just get overpowered anyway because I just like to bully a lot of bosses. And fun fact, this boss does not despawn. So if you're fighting King Slime on tier in Infernum, you need to make sure that you don't get down to one shot and try to recall, because more than likely you will die during this fight. I'm not saying this ever happened to me, because that would never happen to me, of course. And a fun fact, the closer you are to the ninja, the less projectiles he shoots. And with that, King Slime is down. Yeah, bun, we died, bro. We died to Guardians. Yeah, so the run right before this run, we died to Guardians. I went into the fight blind, not knowing anything about the fight at all. And I thought we would get it, but I was wrong. The Guardians are a very interesting fight. But anyway, so the reason we killed King Slime is for the solidifier. With the solidifier, I can make shiny red balloons. Shiny red balloons are one of the main ingredients that go along with your double jumps into crafting bundle balloons, which is a very important accessory for this entire run. So now I pretty much have everything I need to go in a boss rush that's going to push us all the way to hard mode. And I'm sure you all just love events in Terraria, but I really love blood moons. So when I'm talking about things going on in the run, you might hear me often use the term we. Just to be clear, this is a completely solo run. It's just a habit that I built from streaming that I use to address chat and the viewers. Because I like to look at it like we are on this journey together, it's not just me. I want anybody watching this run right now to feel included in everything that I'm doing. And if you've noticed from the webcam, I'm usually quiet during boss fights. It's because I'm usually sweating and I'm just locked in. But hey, it's hardcore. So the reason I killed Brain in the first place is so that I can craft a Crimson Altar, so that I don't have to run to the evil biome every time I need to craft something, as well as getting the Brain of Confusion, which is needed later for the Amalgamated Brain, which is an accessory we'll use pretty much the rest of the run. Yeah, we'll just go for it. So in a lot of the earlier runs, I definitely hit a wall learning Skeletron. I'm not going to say that Skeletron is necessarily a hard fight, but you definitely have to be pretty familiar with a lot of his attacks to know what's going on. To be honest, I love this fight. This is probably my most fun fight in all of pre-hard mode. So let's address the elephant in the room. I don't know why all the rogue hate. Rogue is honestly a goated class and I like it a lot, especially in pre-hard mode. It's probably like one of the strongest classes in pre-hard mode in my opinion. It definitely has a lot of weaker points in hard mode, but I'd say for at this stage of the game, it's very easy to use in a very strong class. Yeah, I didn't like that. Yeah, so I had to recall right there. It wouldn't have been the first time that I died to Skeletron, and I really didn't want to die right there, so I recalled. I switched to Mage, and I'm going to try a boss that I'm a little bit more comfortable with, so that I can get a better armor upgrade, and then we'll go back and try again. If the boss despawns, I personally find recalling completely acceptable. I'm not going to showcase every single recall that we do during the run, but we do recall a decent amount. Like if I'm going to die, I will recall and I'll try the boss again. Now later on in the game, bosses just straight up don't despawn, so you only have one shot to beat the boss. Now I have found some weird mechanics, for example like in Fargo Souls mod, for whatever reason, Mutant will despawn if you get too far away from them. See, I will never recall the final boss. I just find that kind of cringe in my opinion. Also, recalling just too many times I also find kind of cringe. So I will reach a limit where I'm just like, hey, okay, you know what? If we die during this fight, we die. I'm tired of recalling. So I do kind of live by a code also and respect the difficulty. So with Slime got down, we decided to make some new armor. We're actually going mage. I decided against rogue just because I had been doing it so much. I wanted to try something else, so we're going to continue to use the pulse pistol. We're going to make a mage set of the static gel armor. And we're going to go back for round 2 with Skeletron. Okay, we rebuff. We do that. Is that full 100%? It is. All right, let's try this out. See how this does. One big thing that I've learned through playing Infernum is a lot of boss attacks, like projectile patterns that you see in pre-hard mode, you see later on, like late hard mode, post Moonlord. And remembering these attacks and building the muscle memory, I feel like really pays off later on when you see him again. Perfect example, when Skeletron swipes his arm and throws the balls at you, you see the same attack later on through Poltergeist, but it's just much deadlier and the red balls that Poltergeist throws move much faster. Boss fights in Infernum tend to be extremely choreographed, so building muscle memory and learning these fights is key if you want to survive moving forward. But sometimes you still just have human error and you completely throw. Perfect example, this attack right here. This is probably one of the easiest attacks in all of Infernum to dodge. For whatever reason, I'm just flubbing right here and just getting absolutely destroyed by every projectile. You have to sweat a little bit harder when you have to aim. I'm used to using homing weapons. So I decided to switch back to Rogue after this, because I found the Pulse Pistol to be a very underwhelming weapon, not to mention it's fucking loud and annoying. So we decided to switch back to Rogue, and we're also going to take care of our final preparations to get ready for Wall of Flesh. One of them is getting our jungle arena ready, and you'll find out why in a little while. So the reason I like this drill so much, on a side note, is because you can do some pretty crazy fucking movement tech with it. You can like cancel your grapple and mine upward and mine huge areas at one time. Pretty good for a non-qual life user like me who doesn't rely on like city busters or arena builders or anything like that. You can like use a drill and clear out a huge area pretty quickly in my opinion. And the last thing we do is have to get our bridge ready in hell and get ready for Wall of Flesh. I found it much easier to do in the Brimstone Crag. And with that done, it's time to lock in. In any of my runs, I really didn't have too many problems with Wall of Flesh. Wall of Flesh in Infernum is relatively pretty easy compared to Master Death. Master Death, Wall of Flesh is a juggernaut. But this version of Wall of Flesh has some pretty cool structure to it, and personally I enjoy the fight. I could do the slick cane cheese, but we're pretty much trying to avoid doing like cheeses where the boss dies in like seconds. So we just go with the tracking disc, bloodstained glove, and shark tooth necklace for the extra armor pin on our stealth strikes. Now I'll be honest, I have died to this boss a few times in my Infernum runs. Just trying out different weapons and different things, different arena builds that just didn't work out. And unfortunately, we have died a few times to Wall of Flesh, but I found this to be a pretty optimal setup for this boss in my runs. Tracking disc is a very good weapon for the eyes. You see how fast the eyes died just now? And I'm gonna be completely honest, I really do not enjoy this fight at all. This is probably one of my least favorite fights in all of Infernum. I much prefer the Eternity and Masochist version of Wall of Flesh over this Wall of Flesh. I just find that the boss to have much better structure. And I don't know what happens right here, but I just start to eat all the projectiles. So I was playing like complete ass right there at the end for whatever reason. Probably nervous, but we still got the win. Back in hard mode once again. With Wall of Flesh down, it's time to start the upgrades. The first thing we want to do is we want to go get a bunch of palladium so that we can make the armor. In Calamity, breaking altars does not bless your world with ore, but what it does is it drops souls of night, so we break as many as we can find. Then I farm a few pre-hard mode bosses to get some drops that I need for better accessories. Two of them being Amalgamated Brain and the Bloody Worm Scarf. I forgot to fight Queen Bee earlier on, so we do it now so that I can get the Witch Doctor to spawn. I need the Witch Doctor to get the imbuing station so that I can make Flask of Crumbling. Occasionally we'll still use Flask of Ichor, but generally I just go for Crumbling because it's pretty much the only flask you need for basically the entire run, since late game bosses have full immunity anyway. And then I make a small mob farm in Hell right below the Hollow so that I can get Souls of Light, which is needed to craft the Cosmolite. I also find the Wizard and move him to the Hollow so that I can buy an Ice Rod and a Rod of Discord. I also farm Pixies and Unicorns. I get Pixie Dust for the Fairy Wings, and I get Unicorn Horns to make Purple Haze, which is a very effective alcohol. Alcohol buffs are very good in Calamity. This is pretty much going to be my loadout for the next boss. We switched to melee and we're using the Caustic Edge, and I reforged all my accessories to Warding or Lucky. So the reason I got the Jungle Arena ready in pre-hard mode is to avoid the Chlorophyte spawning from the mud, because our next boss is going to be a very undergeared Plantera, and here it is. So this is one of the progression skips that I talked about earlier in the run. But beating Plantera opens up a huge array of armor, weapons, and just the ability to tier skip the mechs entirely. And I want to take a minute to talk about dodging. I feel like this is a topic that people bring up a lot, just how to dodge. First off, one of the most important things that I do is I use Featherfall Potion. In my personal opinion, Featherfall is the best potion in the game. Hands down, it's not even close. You can float at 3 different speeds, and just the ability to navigate bullet hells and projectiles just make it so good. It makes every pair of wings good, it makes bundle of balloons good, it just makes everything good. And I would suggest anybody having skill issues with dodging to learn how to play with Featherfall. And the last thing I'll say about learning how to get good movement and dodging is, if anybody's noticed, I haven't used a dash yet in the run. I think a dash is an accessory that's over relied upon, and I think is really only required for a few bosses later on in the run. Yeah, anyway, back to Plantera. I don't find this fight to be super difficult by any means. I used to do this in Master Death mode, and that fight is definitely more difficult. I still wouldn't say this is an easy fight by any means. You still have to play the game and have some decent movement because you can die very easily. But yeah, Plantera's down. Okay, so the plan is we're going to switch to Mage now. I do need to refarm Plantera to get the weapon that we need, but I decided to upgrade my armor first and get a weapon to make refarming a lot easier. So we come into the dungeon to farm some ectoplasm and a few drops. And real quick, for anybody who's curious how my farms work, so mobs spawn 3 to 4 tiles outside of your view range. So what I do is, I stand on the platform, and about 4 tiles below, I place dungeon bricks down inside of a little box. And then all the surrounding dungeon bricks, I put stone slabs on so that mobs can no longer spawn anywhere besides inside of the box. And this is how we farm. It's called spawn manipulation. With Plantera down, perennial slimes begin to spawn. This is how we're able to skip the mechs entirely. I can get enough perennial ore and then shimmer it down to get all the lower tier ores I need for a forge and anvil, as well as make the bestial pickaxe, which gives us the ability to mine chlorophyte freely moving on. Yeah, so it's pretty broken if you ask me. So I shimmer down enough perennial for Spectre armor and Spectre wings, as well as get 30 titanium ore for a forge and enough orichalcum for an anvil. So now we go back for a quick refarm session with Plantera. The weapon that I want is the Wasp Gun. Most of you are probably familiar with it in vanilla. Well, in Calamity, they buff the damage very nicely, and it ignores enemies' defense, so it's a very good weapon. And we end up getting it on the first try, which is pretty cool. And this brings us to our next boss that is none other than Cryogen. I do this for 2 reasons. 1, because I can get the Permafrost NPC who sells super mana potions. And 2, so I can get Cryonic Ore to begin to spawn. I need Cryonic Ore to make the Ornate Shield, which is going to be our first dash of the run. Plus we need it later on anyway for life alloys, so that's why we go ahead and just knock it out now. And this is just kind of the run I've come up with. But yeah, right here you can just see how good the Wasp Gun is, like how much damage it does. It's homing because, once again, skill issue, I like homing weapons. And also with the Spectre armor on, it just does an incredible amount of damage. I probably rate this fight like a C tier. If any of y'all have played the Fargo Souls DLC, I love the Cryogen rework in that mod. It's so nice. We do need a Dreadnought farm though. So let me make the bait. If you've been wondering how I've been supplying my potions, even though I'm not playing with any potion mods, the answer is I haven't. So I've pretty much just been getting by with some potions that I could craft, or potions that were just gathered during pre-hard mode from labs and chests. Infernum adds a recipe to summon the Dread Nautilus. Dread Nautilus drops 200 blood orbs, so that allows me to make plenty of potions in between boss fights. And this is how I'll supply my potions for pretty much the rest of the run.
Yeah, 630 is plenty.
Alright, so we're on to Golem. I really enjoy this fight. I think Golem has some of the best structure of any boss in Infernum. This is probably one of my favorite fights. I just enjoy it a lot. I would typically farm Wrath of the Ancients before this fight, so I could use Wrath of the Ancients with the Wasp gun. But unfortunately, we didn't get it. And according to Calamity's changelogs, they're actually going to be removing Wrath of the Ancients soon, which really sucks. On another note, we haven't really talked about it yet, but you've probably noticed that I have a speedrun timer on the screen. First off, I'm not a speedrunner. I just enjoy playing with a timer. I like to time my hardcore runs because it helps me route and optimize and be more efficient in my runs. Because if I die, I like to be able to get back to where I was as fast as possible.
Come on, let me get this adrenaline.
And this is actually one of the rare occasions that I did not lose my adrenaline the second the bar got filled. And with that, Golem is down. Now time to go to the most terrifying place in all of Calamity. Thankfully for me, I completed this run just before they patched the ability to recall from the Abyss. Now you pretty much just have to set your Wayfinder point and Wayfinder home and travel there on foot every time you want to go to the Abyss if you don't want to die. But being here is essential for the run because I need scoria. Scoria is one of the 3 main ingredients used in life alloys, which is pretty much a material that's going to be used the rest of the run. So I finally decided to fight the twins way outside of progression and just absolutely bully them. I did this because I wanted the steampunker to spawn in so I could get the Contaminator. I knew from playing a lot of Master Death that Astrum Aureus only enraged during daytime outside of the Astro Biome. But from playing Infernum completely blind and not knowing anything about the boss AI, for whatever reason, I thought that Astrum Aureus was enraging outside of the Astro Biome also, just in Infernum. I didn't know that that was just his normal boss AI. So I got the Steampunker so I could get the Contaminator and I could extend my Astro Biome.
I do not want to go over here at all. I do not want to accidentally spawn cultist. Put a big fucking wall right here.
Yeah, so I found out the hard way that Cultist does not despawn in Infernum. So when you fight him, you better be ready to fight him, and you better win, because you only have one chance. So we get the rest of our arena ready for Astrum Aureus. And talking to a lot of Infernum veterans after this run, I found out that I was wrong the entire time about him enraging. So this entire setup and getting the Steampunker was just an entire waste of time. But you're bound for a lot of failures and learning opportunities when you play a difficulty completely blind and you don't really know much about it. So for no good reason at all, Astrum Aureus is my biggest op. I don't know what it is, my brain just breaks during this fight, but just go in a straight line, Kevo. That's all you have to do. This attack right here is the one in particular that I thought he was enraging because of how fast he was shooting his projectiles and he gets that white border around him. I don't know why, but I just thought he was enraged during that phase. I would be lying if I told you I haven't lost at least one run to this boss before. The thing is, fights are different for everybody. I can execute very difficult bosses, but then flub to the easy ones. This is a very tanky boss, high HP and high defense. And you can see the Wasp gun still holding its own, just eating away at his HP. Now with Astrum Aureus down, we have access to new accessories, alcohols, and weapons. One weapon in particular is called the Hive Pod. It's a summon sentry that does very high damage, and it's going to play a vital part into the build that we're going to run for the rest of Pre-Moon Lord. The next order of agenda is doing everybody's favorite event, Old One's Army. I do want to get Betsy's wings, but if she doesn't drop them, we aren't refarming. The main thing that I'm doing the event for is Defender medals so we can get our next armor set. Infernum Betsy is definitely an upgrade from base Calamity and Vanilla, but anybody who knows Ball knows that Fargo's Eternity and Masochist Betsy is the best variant of Betsy there is. There's no debate about that. We get the win pretty easily, but unfortunately, We didn't get the wings, but we did get Betsy's Wrath, which is a pretty good mage weapon. Not better than the Wasp gun, but we still use it a little bit. So we visit the Tavern Keep to get our next armor set, which is Dark Artist, which is a summoner and mage hybrid, and it's very powerful. So the armor alone gives 25 magic damage, 60% summon damage, and 3 sentry slots. Combined with the 1 sentry you get by default, plus the 1 sentry you get from the war table, you can have a total of 5 hive pods during your fight, plus a powerful mage weapon. That makes this armor set absolutely broken. So now let's test out our new build on a few bosses. The first one being Skeletron Prime. Honestly, I don't even know why I fight the mechs at all. Because I'll tell you what, after playing Terra, we don't even wear boots anymore. I don't even make the angel treads. I'm pretty sure I have lightning boots basically the entire run. I think I do it strictly for Avenger Emblem, but dude, there's so many other damage accessories, like there's really not even a point. I think more than anything, I just wanted to test my damage. Also, this method also works with the Valhalla Knight set and the Red Riding set that you also get from the Tavern Keep. All 3 of these armor sets carry the same sentry slot set bonus, so all of them are viable with this method that I'm using right now. Obviously, the only difference would be different main weapons that you're using. This boss though does have a purpose. Obviously, I need Ashes of Calamity to make Cores of Calamity, which is needed for Asgard's Veiler. Also, the reason that I'm fighting her in the underworld is so that I can get the Brimstone Crescent Staff. I won't go into details about what it does, but let's just say that for a player like me who's ass at the game, it's very good during desperation phases. This is definitely one of the coolest fights in all of Infernum. Even though I'm overpowered, it's still a super cool fight. And I'm really looking forward to like an all bosses set order run to where I'm fighting this boss on tier. I feel like it'd be a lot of fun. Also, if you're wondering why I'm not taking a whole lot of damage, it's because all my accessories are reforged to warding. We do so much damage already that Lucky or Menacing really isn't necessary for us to get a quick kill. And with Calamitous Clone down, time to go in for a few minor upgrades while we get ready for our next boss, which is going to be Cultist. So this is our current loadout for the fight. We're still rocking the Dark Artist set. I've Amalgamated Brain, Steampunker Wings. I meant to put on Void of Calamity and take off the Lightning Boots, but I forgot while I was building my arena. I also have the Star Cloak, the Sigil of Calamitous, and the Asgard's Veiler. The very first time I fought this boss in Infernum, I died probably in the first 15 or 20 seconds. I did not understand this fight at all. And we died to this boss probably another 2-3 times before I really understood it. And even here, I'm still struggling with the boss.
Oh shit. I'm about to die.
So let me be straight up with y'all. Only getting your boss experience in hardcore is actually pretty difficult. But one of my entire rules for the whole run is we were not going to do any off-stream practice before Devourer of Gods. And that's a promise that I stuck with. So prior to Devourer of Gods, all the boss fights you see is either learn in hardcore runs, winning or dying, or recalling the boss a couple times till I could get it kind of down. And yeah, I could opt for more defensive builds, but I just don't enjoy playing like that. I like to play aggressive. I like high damage builds where I need to focus more on better movement than anything else. I would rather focus on movement and not get hit at all than rely on having a bunch of defense depending on getting hit.
Well, that was terrifying. Almost fucking died, dude. Jesus. Where is Stardust? Oh, I never fucking activated my summons, dude. He would have died way faster, bro, if I had my summons out.
The good thing about having sentries is once I break the shield, I can just put my sentries down and recall, and then wait for the pillar to go down and go back and collect the fragments. I take down Stardust first because I need Stardust fragments to upgrade the Wasp gun to its final form, the Swarmer. Let me just say that the Swarmer is a beast, even after the nerf. In previous runs, when I was still using the Valhalla armor, after Solar, I was doing Baref's Vassal and Sand Shark to get the whip and Cherished Sea Locket until post Moonlord, when I can farm it more efficiently, along with a lot of other hard mode bosses that I skipped over until we could just go back and farm certain drops that we need. Alright, so now with Nebula down, we just have one pillar left, which is Vortex. And in my opinion, the easiest one, because just like in vanilla, you can just dig a hole in the ground and then pretty much just kill all the mobs. I also learned the hard way that in Infernum, after the last pillar goes down, Moonlord almost immediately spawns, so you need to be absolutely ready. You need to have all your buffs and get back to your arena almost immediately. Moonlord is another boss that I've probably lost 4 or 5 runs to until I really understood the fight. Also, this is the last fight where you're going to see me using the Rod of Discord, because I think it's just kind of cringe and I don't think I need it anymore. Moonlord is not an easy fight, and after this is when the real challenge begins.
Easy. Huge fucking damage, dude. Huge fucking damage, bro. He got fucking annihilated, bro. Bro got the work. Bro got the work. So this was actually okay. So minus all the bad RNG we had, doing this build here is actually way faster than going. We're still gonna go summoner for Poltergeist, but like instead of farming all that shit beforehand, now we can just go farm all the bosses and items and shit we need, and it'll go like way faster.
And that's what I did. I went back and I farmed all the unnecessary bosses that we skipped over in order to switch to Summoner, which in my opinion is the loadout that takes the most setup. So we take down Desert Scourge so I can get the Voltalic Jelly, which is needed for the Star Tainted Generator. Next is Aquatic Scourge. Pro tip, never fight this boss at night during a blood moon. I end up having to go back later on to refarm Moonlord to get the Rainbow Crystal Staff, because the amount of visual noise you get from the Lunar Portal Staff is just literally too much. I can't take it. But it does completely shred worm bosses like you saw right here. Bro got annihilated.
There he is. Come on.
Acid Rain probably is one of my least favorite events. I literally only do it to get the nuclear fuel rod from the mini boss Craggraw Mire. I also farmed the Pumpkin Moon event to get the Necromantic Scroll, as well as get the Witch's Broom, which we're going to need later on anyway. If y'all haven't noticed already, I'm really not a big fan of doing events.
Dude, we got the drip. Look at our drip for a minute, chat. We got the shield, the Squire shield with the balloons, a fucking jet. We got Danny DeVito with the robot fit. That's what I needed right there. First Shadow Flame. And then I can make Status Blessing. And then with this item I just got, first Shadow Flame, I can make the Status Curse, which gives me 3 more summons.
So now I can craft the 2 accessories needed to pretty much change our loadout entirely to Summoner, which is the Star Tainted Generator and Status Curse.
All right, we got that. Star Tainted Generator. Nice. Alright, Stardust. We have enough. I think we have enough for everything.
I ran out of Stardust fragments, so I decided to do Astrum Deus. Plus, we're going to need Astral Ore later on anyway, so we go ahead and knock them out now. It's a pretty quick fight with post-Moonlord Summoner gear. And not to mention, this is a much easier fight than Deus's variant of Master Death mode. I need a new summon, so I decided to do Playbringer Goliath so I can get the Fuel Cell bundle, which can be made into a Tactical Plague Engine, which is a very powerful summon with the right ammo. So y'all are probably starting to see why I wait until post Moonlord to get Summoner set up. You literally have to farm the most events, bosses, gear, just to get a few things to even get Summoner fully set up. And it's such a grind to do when you do it on tier. I really don't enjoy doing it, so that's why we wait until we're overpowered and then we can come back and farm it properly. Also, the reason why we're switching to Summoner is because of the just pure amount of DPS that you get from it, because moving forward, we're pretty much going for like a full glass cannon build.
Nice, we got it first try.
And then one of the last things that we do is we come farm Bareth Vassal, which we usually do this on tier, but this run in particular I decided to do it after because we did Mage for Moonlord. But we fight him so we can get the Cherished Sea Locket, which in my opinion is one of the best accessories in the game. It gives you 2 hits of 60% damage reduction, as well as having a 12% damage increase. In my opinion, it's one of the best Infernum accessories. We also need to get Perdidicus, which is a very powerful whip that we're going to use pretty much the rest of our summoner run. This is a very fun boss. I highly enjoy doing this boss fight. This is a fight that I really have a lot of fun doing on tier. It's a little bit challenging. It's not the hardest fight, but you can see right here, he's just absolutely no match for the Tactical Plague Engine. It was at this point that something hilarious and also something extremely tragic almost happened. We almost died to Moonlord on Refarm. We finished the fight with like 8 HP.
No, bro.
This was almost the entire run down the drain in an instant. But hey, that's how hardcore goes.
I was throwing. I was fucking around too much. I was overconfident. That was actually kind of funny. Okay, but we got it. We got the staff.
So this is my current loadout. I'm using the Tactical Plague Engine, and for the ammo I'm using Dryad's Tears. I'm also using Perdidicus as my whip, Stardust Armor, the Bee, Stardust Wings, Void of Calamity, Amalgamated Brain, Status Curse, Star Tinted Generator, and the Squire's Shield. I'm also using the Rainbow Crystal Staff with 4 summons on screen. And with that, here's the next boss, which is an Undergeared Poltergeist. As I've said before earlier on in the video, a lot of Poltergeist attacks are just recycled attacks that you've seen from other bosses. So this attack right here with the red balls is very similar to what you see early on with Skeletron, just a lot faster and a lot more deadly. So I found this attack to be very easy to dodge. This second attack I found just circling the boss makes it to where I don't even need a dash. I do end up using my brain cooldown right there, but overall that's a pretty easy attack to avoid with no dash. If you're wondering why I'm doing Poltergeist right now, it's because at this point I have no experience with any post-Moonlord bosses. So I figure if I can get good at Poltergeist and get over-geared, just like I did with Plantera, then I can pretty much brute force my way all the way to DOG. It's a very weird method, but I found this is what works for me. So this attack right here, for any of my Fargos players out there, is very similar to Phase 2 Abomination. I do end up taking a little damage right there, but overall, I don't think it's a hard attack to avoid. It kind of sucks that I lost my adrenaline, but even with Rage, right here you just see that Poltergeist's HP just completely gets annihilated. This summoner build I'm using right here is just absolutely insane. It's full glass cannon, but it's exactly what I needed to beat the boss. So I was able to get pretty good at the regular fight just by recalling and kind of learning the boss briefly, but I'm completely ass at Desperation because I've had no practice. So I had to make a defensive build right here, and I'm still getting destroyed. I'm using Reaver Armor with the Brimstone Crescent Staff, Sea Locket, and a bunch of other defensive accessories. But it was what I needed to get the win. I know it's an utterly bitch build for Desperation, but it's hardcore, dude, like who really cares? At this point, whatever I have to do to get the win besides some glitches or major cheesing, I'm good with. And I don't consider this one of those things.
Easy. First fucking try. And then we got the summon. We're getting pretty good at this game, dude. I think we're getting pretty good at Terraria, chat. Alright, here we go, chat. We gotta lock in.
There really isn't a whole lot to talk about between the Poltergeist fight and doing Profane Guardians. I swap out the Squire's Shield with Affliction, and we're using the Poltergeist summon, which is the Ethereal Subjugator. I knew before even starting this challenge that the Profane Guardians were a gatekeeper for the rest of Post Moonlord. That's why I did Poltergeist first, so we can just brute force our way past them. But just for a point of reference, we have lost a few hardcore runs to Profane Guardians, even with post-Poltergeist gear, which is kind of embarrassing, honestly. But you have to remember that this is one of the bosses that we've had no practice for prior to playing hardcore. If you remember the deal I made with myself before these runs even started, I was going to practice no boss or have no off-stream practice before Devourer of Gods. So every attempt against Profane Guardians was in hardcore entirely.
Ow.
The fight was going so clean too, and then right there at the end, we just took a bunch of damage. We're so overpowered from this poltergeist summon that it really doesn't even matter. We get the dub, and we can just go straight on to Providence.
That was fucking easy as shit. Go close to the boss, it's hitbox. Well, I know that already. I mean, I played like 50, I got like a shit ton of hours in Calamity. I've just never played Infernum. God damn it, bro. I'm playing like shit today, Jesus.
Yeah, so this boss was definitely a learning curve. Luckily for me, Providence can be recalled in Infernum, so I use that to my advantage and recalled if things were getting kind of sketchy. Even overpowered, I was still having a lot of issues early on while learning this boss. But dude, this boss is so peak, I love this fight. And dude, I don't know what the fuck goes on right here, but my PC just kind of went in slow motion. This is the first time in Infernum that this had happened so far. But luckily it doesn't last long, it only lasts a few seconds while in this one phase.
The fuck?
So I found out after the fight that we were also doing so much damage that we completely skipped her cross phase. I didn't even know that was a thing until after the fact. Chad had told me. I had to look up what it was afterwards, and honestly, it didn't look like it was that difficult. It definitely looked learnable.
This ain't good, chat. Why's my computer fucking...
Yeah, luckily for me, this was the only fight where we experienced a little bit of lag. After this, we really don't have any more issues. But anyway, back to the fight. So, I've found that every boss in Infernum has been learnable. I don't think any of the attack patterns have really been anything that crazy. Even right here, I mean, you pretty much just have to stay within the grid. Especially with Summoner and then using the Predicus Whip, we're dealing just a massive amount of damage right here that pretty much ends her.
Okay.
And with Providence down, now we can go start a few armor and weapon upgrades and get ready for the next boss, which is going to be Devourer of Gods.
That's done. We never have to fight her again. Rip run? Why rip run? You Ender, thank you for the follow, dude.
Yeah, so I had a lot of non-believers in chat who thought that DOG was just going to be the end of me. So anyway, we come down to the Brimstone Crag so I can start to farm Bloodstone so that I can make the Blood Flare armor, which is going to be our armor of choice for DOG.
Yeah, we're going to go a full damage build, Judy. I'm going to be full lucky. Well, not full damage build. I'm going to use the Cherished Sea Locket and Flesh Totem. You can survive a direct bite from dog with the Flesh Totem and the Sea Locket. Alright, hopefully we don't die to this boss.
So the reason for this random Cygnus fight is for our next weapon of choice for DOG, which is going to be Death's Ascension. Dog is the very first boss that I've practiced so far in Infernum, and I found melee to be the best option. Cygnus is another boss that you cannot recall from in Infernum. He will trail you wherever you go, so when you fight him, you need to be ready to win. But honestly, Summoner is still overpowered against this boss, and especially with the Blood Flare armor, it's not even close.
Well, that was fucking easy. This is the worst part right here, just taking out the Skylands.
The last thing I do is get my arena ready for pretty much the rest of the bosses in the game. I wanted to be over-prepared, so I built a pretty big arena. And I had to do it all manually.
Do you have any tips on how to beat Guardians on Infernum? Attempt 60? Don't ask me, dude. I play like the most brain-rotted way possible. We literally mastered Poltergeist before we did Guardians. I can one-attempt Poltergeist, but Guardians, I can still die to them. So don't even... If you want, like, good advice, I'm not the person to ask. I don't, like, do on-tier stuff. My deal is, I've been playing hardcore for a couple years. Never played Infernum. I downloaded Infernum and played, like, maybe a couple hours, like a year and a half ago, but not, like, a real fucking run. So, we started playing Infernum 6 weeks ago, dude. So this is my first time ever playing I've never beaten Infernum before. So we're going to try to beat Infernum for the first time on hardcore.
And in one of the few depth clips that I did save, This is no more than a week ago. I was fighting DOG in a hardcore run, and I fat fingered the laser wall and dismounted twice and died.
What? I threw.
So this time around, I wanted to be fully prepared so I wouldn't suffer the same fate.
Well,
as far as my loadout goes, I'm using Blood Flare armor with Amalgamated Brain, and I'm using the Cherished Sea Locket as an accessory swap on Brain cooldown. Elysian Wings, Flesh Totem, Elysian Aegis, Badge of Bravery, and Affliction. As far as alcohols, I'm using Purple Haze and Everclear. And for my weapon of choice, it's Death's Ascension. And without further ado, here's DOG.
God damn it. That ain't good. We win these. We fucking win these. We win these, bro. We win these. Easy. Get the fuck out of my lobby. Get the fuck out of my lobby. Get the fuck out of my lobby. Cosmic plushie. This validates the hardcore run. Okay, but we gotta stick with Danny. Danny's our good luck charm, bro. We gotta stick with Danny.
So before y'all destroy me for how unoptimized my dogfight is, I know. I already know that dashing him up and down is not optimal, but that fight was literally self-taught, and we only practiced for a few hours before our first run. So overall, I have very little fight time against DOG. So after all the typical post-DOG upgrades, I decided to do something devious. I found out that Primordial Worm in Infernum is an actual fight, and he drops 2 of the best mage weapons in the entire game. So I make some Godslayer armor, craft the affinity with some Godslayer slugs, and take him on. Credit to DR Donnie, he's an Infernum speedrunner on YouTube, and that's who I got this strategy from. While I did learn this boss off stream, you are able to recall Primordial Worm. So I use this to my advantage, because a part of this strategy, you pretty much have to no-hit him. You need to save up your rage and adrenaline and wait for the spiral attack so you can just take him out all at once. Because you really want to avoid taking him into his last 2 phases if you really don't have to. So you can see right here for this laser attack, we just use a fish mount. And I just kind of slightly strafe back and forth and pretty much just avoid every laser. And you also want your damage to be as high as possible. I am wearing the Abyssal diving suit, just because I didn't want there to be some kind of weird mechanic where the boss fight ended and I just drowned to death. I've heard that you don't have to do that, but I just went ahead and did it anyway. And then bro just gets annihilated right here. I mean, that's a quick GG's if you ask me. GG. G fucking G's, chat.
No, that is not the final boss. That is not the final boss, but that's out the way and I never, ever have to do that again. But he drops some of the best items in the game. He drops the Halibut Cannon, this weapon, Illusioner's Reverie, which we're going to use. So I need to make the ethereal talisman. Boom. Okay, I can already make it. I think this is a setup. All lucky. Use the boots. See, I never wear boots. I don't even have boots, bro. I still have lightning boots, Ender. Oh yeah, 97 crit. He's about to get fucking smoked. Here we go.
So using this exact setup and fighting Yarn for the first time ever off stream, I beat him on my 3rd try. I found out later on from multiple sources that Illusioner's Reverie pretty much cuts the fight down by 2 to 4 times. But in general, overall, I still don't find this fight to be that difficult. I mean, you could see that I barely take any damage during this fight. So this was definitely one of the easier fights for me to learn. A lot of people call this a dash slop fight, but in my opinion, dude, I enjoy the dash slop fights. You really just need to have quick enough reflexes to be able to respond. And for anybody wondering, I'm no longer using Everclear. I'm using Purple Haze, Starbeam Rye, and Tequila Sunrise. I actually found out from Bone Reaper that Everclear is like terrible to use. So the fact that I was using it in a hardcore run for a boss like Dog that I had no experience with was kind of fucking devious, honestly. So W Bone Reaper, because I'd probably still be using it and I probably would have died.
Let's go. Come on. Easy.
Illusioner's Reverie just makes this fight completely irrelevant. Now with Yarn down, I can go ahead and start farming Auric Ore for our final armor upgrade. I do refarm Yarn to get more fragments and to get Dragon's Rage because I was suggested to use it for Sepulture during the Scal fight. Scal is unknown territory to me, so I really don't want to take any chances.
Okay, we got it.
So I go down to the cavern layer to start farming Auric Ore, so I can pretty much make all the rest of my upgrades for the entire run, the armor and accessories. And obviously we're going to stick with Mage for Exomix and Scal. But I will be using some non-class weapons for certain parts of both fights.
Okay, we got Radiance. Yeah. For Desperation, we're going to put a Nebulous Core, Cherish Sea Locket, and Rampart. And we're going to take out the Talisman, Amalgam, and Chalice. Y'all ready? Easy fight, bro. Easy fight.
This fight took me a little while to master. We go Twins plus Ares, and it probably took me about 50 tries to get my first win off stream. And after that, we just worked on perfecting each part of the fight. And y'all might think I'm crazy, and I might be alone in this, but honestly, I think Exomex are easier than Scal. Like, I really just don't find this to be a hard fight at all. With practice, of course. So for anybody wondering why we're doing Exomex before Scal, that's why. That, and I want Draydon's Heart, because, to be fair, I don't trust myself with Adrenaline against Scal. I'm not good enough at the fight yet, and it's just not worth the risk. So for Ares, I found that Eye of Madness is better than Illusioner's Reverie, just because it can hit multiple targets all at once. It's not quite as high DPS as Reverie, but it's still a very powerful weapon. And here's Thanatos. Just as you'd expect from Halibut Cannon with Bloodfire bullets, he gets almost automatically deleted. And he's dead already. Yeah, we're not taking any chances here. This is hardcore. We're pulling out all the stops and using all the metas. Alright, so the triple beam means that we're in the final phase for Ares. Once we take down Ares, all we have left is Twins Desperation phase. Bro, looking back at this footage, you can just tell how locked in I am. I don't say a word during these fights, even on stream. God damn it.
Easy, easy. Okay.
So I saved my adrenaline because I thought that maybe if I killed them before the desperation phase started, I could just eliminate desperation phase altogether. But just with adrenaline wasn't enough damage. Probably if I would have had rage and adrenaline, it would have been good. And here we go, we're in desperation. I wanted to do it straight up. I am using the Brimstone Crescent Staff, but for the most part, we're just doing this straight up. No conscience away.
And we gotta heal. We're chilling. We're chilling. We win this. Easy, bro.
And Exomex are down. There's pretty much nothing left to do but fight the final boss of the run, the Brimstone Witch, Supreme Calamitous. I'm also not using a mount for this fight. I want to fight her as straight up as possible.
Fuck me. God damn it, bro. You got fat ass. We're chilling. We're chilling. We got a heal and a fucking...
I just want to say thank you to everybody watching the video and has supported me along the way. I hope you enjoyed this journey. I had a hell of a lot of fun doing it. And if you've watched till the end, you must have enjoyed it. So do your boy a huge favor and drop a sub. I'd really appreciate it. There's going to be a lot more content on the way. So thank y'all and see you next time.